Hello, welcome. My name is Stephanie Hastings and I am one of the hosts of our webinar for today for the Our Lives Matter Quilt Project. Before I tell you about the Our Lives Matter quilt, I do have one question for you. Have you lost someone to addiction or substance use disorders? And if you will bear with me, for some reason my screen does not want to transfer, so we got to, there we go. Have you lost someone to drug abuse or alcohol or substance use? If the answer to this question is yes, then we'd like to take a little detour first and tell you a little bit about how the end of the AIDS stigma came into being. Here we're going to offer a brief overview of the beginning of the end of the AIDS stigma. What we are displaying here is a few panels of the AIDS quilt that were on display at the Washington, D.C. National Mall. Some history behind the AIDS names quilt was that in 1978, the mayor of San Francisco, George Moscone, and the city supervisor, a gay man by the name of Harvey Milk, were assassinated by a disgruntled former city employee. After the shooting, the man by the name of Cleve Jones helped organize an annual candlelight march honoring these men. While planning the 1985 march, he learned that over 1,000 San Franciscans had lost their lives to AIDS. So he asked each of his fellow marchers to write the names of their friends and loved ones on placards. At the end of the march, he and others stood on ladders and taped these placards to the San Francisco Federal Building. The names look like a patchwork quilt. Inspired by the sight, he and friends made plans for a larger memorial. A little over a year, in June of 1987, a small group of strangers gathered in San Francisco's storefront to document the lives they feared history would neglect. Jones created the first panel for the AIDS Memorial Quilt in memory of his friend, in memory of his friend Marvin Feldman. He teamed up with several others to formally organize the Names Project Foundation. Their goal was to create a memorial for those who had died of AIDS and to thereby help people understand the devastating impact of the AIDS disease. And this is exactly what we are looking to do with the loved ones we have lost with their battle to addiction. In October of 1987, the quilt was displayed for the first time on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. during the National March on Washington for Lesbian Gay Rights, and it covered a larger space than a football field, including 1,920 panels, which is 500,000 people visited the quilt that weekend. Today, there are Names Project chapters across the United States and independent quilt affiliates around the world. Since 1987, over 14 million people have visited the quilt and thousands of displays worldwide. Through such displays, the Names Project Foundation has raised over $3 million for AIDS service organizations throughout North America. The last display of the entire AIDS Memorial Quilt was in October of 1986, when the quilt covered the entire National Mall in Washington, D.C. And on this slide, we can see a truly impactful picture of what that looks like. Our vision through Pro-A is that through our Lives Matter project, we can get the same impactful, heartfelt message across through the quilt project we are looking to achieve. Last October 4th, a large group of close to 300 people from the Bethlehem Recovery Center traveled to Washington, D.C. for the Unite to Face Addiction rally. At the rally, inspired by the 35,000 people who turned out in less than ideal weather, a couple of us kicked around the idea, why not make a quilt for us? Oops. Last November, a couple of days before Thanksgiving, 4 of us, all survivors in one way or another of the disease of addiction, traveled to the William Way Community Center in Philadelphia to meet with Terry Hawkins, pictured here on the right, who was the outreach coordinator for the AIDS Fund of Philadelphia. Terry was kind enough to bring out a carton that contained a small portion of the AIDS quilt. We laid the quilt squares out and walked around, joined with 24 strangers that had died during the AIDS epidemic. But they were still there with us in spirit. In this picture on the right, Terry is carrying a single square of the quilt, which consists of 8 panels. It was at that time that one of our volunteers, Paige Roth, had decided that it was time she connect with Pro-A and put faces with names together in patchwork and make up those patchwork made up of those who had lost their lives to addiction because of Lives Matter too. They went to Philly to learn how to make a panel. One of the things we learned was that you don't need to be an artist or know how to sew to create a moving personal tribute. Whether you choose to use paint on a bed sheet or sew elaborate embroidery is up to you. The important thing to know is that any remembrance is important. You may choose to create a panel privately as a personal memorial to someone you've lost, but we do encourage you to follow the traditions of old-fashioned sewing and quilting bees by including family and friends in the panel making process, as this does help with the healing process. In this slide here, we show a picture of one of the squares of the quilts, and it consists of 3 panels that are sewn together. Our vision is that by showing the number of lives lost through addiction, we are able to make a silent yet profound impact on the number of lives we have lost to addiction and return to those we've lost their dignity as well as their voice. When you're designing a panel, you want to remember that the quilt will be folded and unfolded many times, so the durability of your design and the materials that you choose to use are crucial to the panel's longevity and durability. You want to make sure that the name of the friend or loved one you are remembering is included in the panel. Please make sure that you limit each panel to just one individual. And you want to make sure that you please include any additional information that is important to show the life of the individual that you have loved and lost, such as dates, places of birth, death, and anything that shows who this person was to you and who they really were. Here are some examples of what panels could look like. The size and background material for the panels. The size of the completed panel should be 3 feet by 6 feet. You want to make sure that you leave at least 1 inch around the edge of your completed panel. This will ensure that all of your design will be visible once the panels are joined together. Select a durable and medium weight non-stretch fabric for the background. After you have painted or sewn the design on the panel, hem it to a 3 by 6. Again, ensuring that there is still a 1-inch border so that panels may be sewn and joined together. If you cannot sew, that is not a problem. Please but make sure that you are leaving 3 inches of extra fabric on each side of the panel, allowing us to hem it down and ensure that we can properly fit the panels together. But again, it is crucial that all panels are of the equal size. Again, here are some additional ideas and suggestions for what panels may look like. And on the slide to the right, you will see it's identified by a particular number. Here at Pro A, we will be specifically cataloging each individual panel as they come in, associated with the primary panel maker's information sheet, as well as any story that were to come in with the panels, so that we will always be able to immediately identify the panel, where it came from, and who it belongs to in regards to who the panel maker was. When you're assembling your panel, please know that your designs can be either vertical or horizontal. And the 2 pictures below are prime examples of what your vertical design may look like, as well as your horizontal. We felt it was important that we give some examples of what some possible techniques may be to use in constructing your panels. So when you are constructing your panel, you may want to use some of the following techniques. Applique. Sew fabric, letters, and small mementos onto the background fabric. Please avoid using glue if you can. It is not a substance that will last. Paint. Brush on textile paint or a color-fast dye, or use a permanent marker. Spray paint will also work. Do not use puff paint made for t-shirts because it is too sticky and will run onto other panels and also will not last. Stencil. Trace your design onto the fabric with a pencil, lift the stencil, and use a brush to apply paint or permanent markers. Collage. Make sure that whatever materials you add to the panel won't tear the fabric. Again, if we are using a durable, consistent, non-stretchy fabric, this should not be an issue, but we do want to make sure that we do add that into the point to understand that sometimes collage does add a little bit of weight to the panels. So it is important that you are paying attention to the fabric you are using if you choose to use the collage option. Avoid large three-dimensional objects or heavy metal pieces, such as clothing, as pants or shoes or belts. T-shirts are good options for this. The back side of a favorite pair of pants or the front side of a favorite pair of pants, bandanas, small necklace medallions that don't have a lot of weight are often good ideas. Keychain medallions, if there's not a lot of weight, are also good ideas. Instead, you want to recreate the object in fabric and sew it onto the panel. It can be very effective and fun. And photos are often the best way to include photos or letters is to photocopy them onto iron-on transfers. I believe Kinko's or any place such as those that make copies, Staples may also have that capability where they can take a copy of a photo, put it onto an iron transfer. Any t-shirt shop also will be able to do this for you. Put it onto an iron transfer and iron them on 100% cotton fabric, and then sew that fabric onto the panel. These are a few examples of panels that are in the process of being made. One is for a gentleman that had been lost, and he was very into cooking. As you can see, he wore his suspenders. So they are trying to incorporate pieces of his suspender along with pieces of his chef hat, and are having a picture of him and his family incorporated into the piece of the panel. This is a panel that is coming to us from Lehigh County by a woman named Sharon Stauffer of Emmaus. She was on that trip to Philadelphia, and a few weeks ago on Labor Day, she, along with our volunteer Paige Roth, pinned together the first panel of the Our Lives Matter quilt. They pinned together memories of her son Ryan, who lost his battle with addiction just days before Christmas in 2010. He was 28 years old. They pinned pictures of him growing up, from a young child with his teddy bear to a young man on family vacation. We pinned a part of his baby blanket, and they pinned a bowling towel and his hunting license. They pinned them onto a pale blue material embossed in tiny doves. So these are another example of different ideas of what might be used to make your memory of your loved one and bring out their voice of the life of who they were. When you are submitting your panel, and once you have your panel completed, please pack everything up carefully. Be sure to include the information form and send everything to Pro A, attention Stephanie Hastings, at 900 South Arlington Avenue, suite number 254A, in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, 17109. It is important for you to complete all information on the form titled Primary Panel Makers Information so that we may contact you. It is Pro A's vision that this project will bring diverse members of the communities together with family groups and individuals to help to heal together. and that united we will change the conversation around addiction and recovery to help save future lives. One thing we have learned through time is that addiction does not discriminate. It is time for us to teach that to the country. It is time we rally together and recognize those we lost to substance abuse and addiction. It is time for the stigma to end. And one thing that has always rung true to me and has always been a remembrance is that those we love, they never go away. They walk beside us every day. And that brings us to the end of our tutorial for the quilt making process of the Our Lives Matter quilt project. At this time, I would like to open it up for questions. Are there any questions regarding any of the information that was covered in today's webinar? I would like to point out that this webinar will be uploaded to our website and will be available for viewing again probably by the middle of next week. So if you wish to view the webinar again or pass it along to anyone in your office or who may be interested in making a quilt panel, I do suggest you are welcome to download the webinar and view it and show it to as many people as you would like. Let me see, where do we get the form to submit? That is a very good question. I'm going to post my email address right here. And please feel free to email me and I will be happy to forward on the PDF brochure we have for that. Yes, I have the brochure information and will be happy to email the information out to whoever is requesting it. And once you receive the brochure with the primary panel maker's information and the information also in the webinar, which is where most of the information for the tutorial came from, you feel free to pass that on to anyone that is interested in making a panel. We are asking, we are hoping to unveil this Our Lives Matter quilt at the Courage to Change rally at the state capitol on September 20th. However, we will maintain a soft deadline. But if you would like, or anyone you know would like their panel displayed at the Courage to Change rally at the unveiling, we are asking that the panels be sent and received to our office. And again, the address for that, and I will post that here as well. The address is Pro A, attention Stephanie Hastings, 900 South Arlington Avenue, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, 17109, and that is Suite 254A. And again, that information is also in the brochure. So anyone who is interested in having the brochure sent to them, please feel free to email me at any time and I will get that out to you immediately for your review. And any of the information, including how to submit the panel, is included in that brochure as well. The next question is, what are your hours? I'm local and can drop the panel off. We typically have someone in the office most days of the week, depending on the week. However, up until at least 4 p.m. However, my phone number is 717-545-8929, extension 3. So if you would like to call me and arrange a time to drop it off, I will be sure to be in the office. The next question is, when is the deadline to have it displayed in Harrisburg? We are asking that anyone who wishes to have their panel on the quilt to be unveiled and displayed at the state capitol for the Courage to Change rally on September 20th, have their panels to our office by no later than the end of the first week of August. I'm also going to throw out there, in case anyone has talented or at least crafty sewing ability, or knows of anyone who has sewing ability or is involved in any sewing groups, whether it be through church, school groups, social groups, whatever it be, we are desperately in need of some volunteers to help us with the final assemblies of the panels as they are coming in, to help us attach the panels to get the quilt ready for the display. So if you know of anyone who is willing to volunteer some time to help me with the sewing and help us get the quilt ready to display at the Courage to Change rally, if they could please contact me, I would greatly appreciate it. I'm going to put some information here in the info box, looking for volunteers to help with sewing for the final assembly. If anyone is interested or knows of anyone interested, please do not hesitate to contact me at either hastings@proa.org, or again, my office number is 717-545-8929, extension 3. Are there any other questions pertaining to today's webinar? I am hoping that some of the information that was provided for you today you were able to find useful and help you in understanding what we are looking for with the quilt panels. And I know some people were a little concerned thinking that they had to have great sewing abilities. That is not what we are looking for. We are simply looking to memorialize their loved one who has lost their battle to addiction and bring back their dignity to the ones we have lost and give them a voice. That is what we are looking to do with this project, as well as bring community members together and start a conversation to, in the overall, change the talk about addiction and recovery. Did I get to everyone's questions that they had asked? Okay, well, if there are no further questions for today, I very much thank you for your participation. I look forward to hearing from those of you who are interested in receiving the Our Lives Matter quilt brochure, and look forward to receiving panels from all of you who participated, as well as anyone you are looking to share this with. And I thank you very much and wish you a wonderful day. Thank you very much.